AI does not live in the cloud. It lives in giant windowless buildings that drink water, consume electricity, shake neighborhoods, and sometimes hide behind shell companies. One child woke up and told his father there was a spaceship outside. It was not a spaceship. It was the sound of the internet. And as AI grows, these buildings are appearing faster than the public can even map them. That is the spine of this story. The problem is not that AI needs infrastructure. The problem is secrecy, speed, and communities being left behind. Every photo backup, search result, chatbot answer, medical file, and bank transaction has to be stored somewhere. The name cloud makes it feel clean and weightless. The physical version is heavier. Heat, noise, land deals, water demand, power demand, and public bills. The speed is the first shock. More than 2 new data centers are appearing in the United States every week. Some can use as much power and water as a small city, but there is no single official public list of where they are, how many have been approved, or who owns them. If you want to understand the real cost of AI, you have to start with the thing that should already exist, a map. So the story becomes a hunt through documents. Follow the permits, find the buildings, identify the owners, then ask what happens when the invisible internet lands beside homes, farms, deserts, and power grids. This is not an anti-technology story. It is a timing story. We are building the future quickly. The public is trying to understand the cost before the concrete hardens. The first mystery is the missing map. Data centers are critical infrastructure, but there is no national public directory that shows every major site and owner. Local officials may have fragments. State agencies may have permits. Companies may use quiet subsidiaries. The result is a blind spot. The country can depend on these buildings, while ordinary residents struggle to learn what is being built nearby. The breakthrough was not a secret whistleblower. It was backup generators. Data centers cannot afford to go dark, so they install emergency diesel generators. Those generators often need air quality permits. Permits reveal capacity, location, and sometimes ownership clues. When no one would hand over a master list, investigators built one from public records, one generator at a time. Near Columbus, Ohio, that method exposed a fast-growing cluster with permits for at least 164 emergency generators. One major site appeared under the name Mellon Enterprises, LLC. On paper, it looked bland and forgettable. Then the records were heavily redacted under trade secret claims. That is the pattern. The public gets black bars while the infrastructure keeps expanding. The mask slipped through corporate disclosures. Major tech companies have to report subsidiaries they own, and cross-checking those filings connected Mellon Enterprises to Google. This is one of the most important reveals in the whole story. A town may think it is dealing with an obscure LLC, while the real force behind the project is one of the most powerful companies on Earth. Investigators repeated that process hundreds of times. Permit by permit, LLC by LLC, the map filled in. By the end of 2024, they identified 2,240 data centers in the United States that were built or approved and large enough to need backup generator permits. That is nearly 4 times the number in 2010. This is where the cloud becomes evidence. The biggest names were exactly the ones powering the AI race: Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and QTS. Amazon alone was linked to 177 facilities, and nowhere shows the scale more clearly than Northern Virginia, where data centers cluster so densely that as much as a third of global internet traffic flows through the state. The hidden map leads directly to the people living inside it. But the first cost is not water or electricity. It is what happens when the machine moves next door. In Virginia, the internet has neighbors. From the road, many data centers look like plain industrial boxes. From the air, they look like a new geography wrapped around subdivisions. For residents, the cloud is not abstract. It is across the street. Donna Gallant has lived in Prince William County for around 30 years. When Google data centers began rising nearby, she tried to get answers. She says the response was often the same. An NDA had been signed, so no one could talk. That sentence changes the mood of the story. It means a resident can watch a massive project appear near her home and still be told the details are off limits. The site was not even finished, but Donna said the tonal noise was already affecting her sleep. She moved downstairs and used noise-canceling headphones just to get through the night. Then came the bigger fear. More buildings were planned. A plot once meant for homes was rezoned in 2023 for data centers, including a 75-foot structure in a residential area. The pattern repeats with Carlos Yanis in Manassas, Virginia. He measures the sound from nearby Amazon data centers twice a day and logs it with a local residents group. He spent about $20,000 on insulation and new upstairs windows. The sound still got in. He says the issue is not only what you hear, but what you feel when the vibration reaches the walls and windows. That is where the opening line comes from. Carlos's 7-year-old son woke up and said, "Dad, there's a spaceship outside." The line lands because it turns infrastructure into a child's fear. Amazon said its centers operate well below required sound levels. Residents are saying something different. Compliance on paper does not always mean peace at night. This is the first consequence of secrecy and speed. People experience the project before they understand the deal. Data centers bring investment, but they also bring fences, fans, substations, traffic, and a constant machine presence. Donna's story and Carlos's story are not side notes. They are the warning label for a build-out moving faster than local consent. Then the story leaves Virginia and moves west, where the problem is not noise, it is water. In Arizona, the data center boom collides with one of America's most stressed water systems. The Colorado River supports farms, cities, and industries across the Southwest. But since 2000, its flow has shrunk by about 20%. Every new demand matters. A Microsoft data center built in 2019 became part of a much larger cluster within just a few years. From above, the expansion is blunt. Desert land, farmland, construction pads, and rows of huge low buildings. The public may see one project at a time. Water systems see the long-term math, and the math changes quickly once one building becomes 5.
County air permit documents showed plans tied to 280 generators with a combined capacity of almost 800,000 kilowatts. That number proves industrial scale. But the water records are what stopped the story cold. Documents showed Microsoft planned for each building to use up to 1 million gallons of water per day. This is not a rumor, it is paperwork. Across the project, that could reach 1.83 billion gallons a year, enough for roughly 61,000 Americans, or a city the size of Santa Cruz, California. And this is in an area of extreme water stress. Up to 43% of the largest data centers are located in regions with high or extremely high water stress. The drought is not background, it is part of the cost. The industry says it is working on solutions. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta have pledged to become water positive by 2030, but much of that depends on credits, offsets, or paying for water savings somewhere else. Offsets may help the balance sheet. They do not necessarily replace the water drawn from the basin next to a growing city. Other records show the pattern. A Google campus in Midlothian, Texas, used 160 million gallons of water in 2023. A Kyndryl facility near Boulder, Colorado, used 84.5 million gallons the same year. In Aurora, Colorado, a QTS site was expected to use 1.1 million gallons a year just for landscaping. Each number adds a different consequence, not just another example. Water cools the machines. Electricity feeds them. A standard server cabinet might use 5 to 10 kilowatts. AI-focused GPU cabinets can jump to 70, 80, or even 100 kilowatts. That is the power curve behind the AI boom. Denser chips, hotter rooms, larger substations, and a grid forced to grow around the demands of computation.
The largest data centers can use more than 2 terawatt-hours of electricity a year, enough for about 200,000 homes. Data centers driven by AI could consume up to 600 terawatt-hours of power by 2028. A 2024 Department of Energy report estimated data center electricity use could rise from just over 4% of U.S. power in 2023 to as much as 12% in the coming years.
That demand is already changing energy policy. In Nebraska, utilities that had committed to net zero electricity by 2050 delayed closing coal plants after data center demand surged. A single Meta campus in Springfield could use as much electricity as 400,000 homes in a year. By 2025, one major utility had approved 2 new natural gas plants, mainly to meet data center demand.
The backup generators add a local air problem to the grid problem. Thousands of diesel units sit beside data centers across the country. Even if they run only for testing or emergencies, they can release pollutants nearby. The industry can be digital at the user end and industrial at the community end. That contradiction is why documentation matters.
Then comes the grid bill. Companies announce renewable deals, nuclear power agreements, and carbon offsets. Those may help, but they do not answer who pays for transmission lines, substations, and new generation. In Virginia, Dominion Energy said expansion could cost up to $103 billion and raise residential bills by as much as 50%. States still compete for these projects with tax breaks, cheap land, and incentives, but the job payoff can be smaller than the hype. Business Insider found even the largest data centers employ fewer than 150 permanent workers, and some have as few as 25. In Virginia, 56 data center projects received almost $1 billion in tax savings in one fiscal year.
That is why the Shell Company story matters at the end. In New Albany, Ohio, an LLC called SciCat requested 100% property tax abatements for at least 15 years to build huge data centers. Officials agreed. The estimated foregone taxes reached at least $60 million. Later, the public learned SciCat was Meta. The issue was never only power or water, it was consent.
The real cost of AI is not that data centers exist. We need them. The cost is building them faster than communities can understand the trade-offs. The resolution is transparency before construction, public maps, real ownership disclosure, water use data, noise rules written for 24/7 machines, and grid costs that do not quietly land on households. AI may be the future, but the future should not arrive in a town under a fake company name behind a fence with the bill sent to everyone else.